Well, now that I've had time to ruminate over the movie Frost Nixon, I just have a few quick comments. I think Frank Langella did a good job, but in a lot of ways he was just sending up Nixon the way so many of us can do. The fact that he was able to maintain that momentum, though, and I suppose there were smaller details, and as far as with his posture and his Monty Burns posture and everything. So I guess it was really more of a portrayal than a send-up. And I mean, I thought all the acting was really great. If you're really into Kevin Nealon makes a very brief cameo, and I just think he's the bee's knees. Other points that I wanted to make, though, is why did George Bush get away with so much? And Nixon got caught, with his hand in the bag. And I think George Bush is guilty of much greater crimes. How did Bush get away with it? And one way I'm looking at it is that the journalists, the Fifth Estate, they're not as talented as the ones that were out there back then in the early to mid 70s. There, I said it. My father was a news magazine man, but he had also been a newspaper man up until the late 60s. And I don't think that George Bush would have happened really on their watch. Robin's dad is a journalist too, and if he'd have been a big name journalist on like the Times or whatever, Bush would not have been able to get, if they'd had a larger readership, Bush would not have gotten away with crap like that with these old-time journalists. Another point I want to make is that the reprobation that Nixon received from Congress was across party lines. I mean, nobody in Congress could believe that Nixon had done what he had done, when only a little bit. Nobody really even knows everything, and we'll never know everything. They couldn't believe it, and this man had totally degraded the office of presidency and put our country through a 2-year trauma, all for his own, personal aggrandizement. It was a horror. It was a horror show, and if you were around for it, you know what I'm talking about. And the fact that he pretty much did get away with it, but thanks to people like Robert Frost, or was it David Frost? I know, I just saw the fucking movie. Anyway, if it weren't for people like Frost, and dare I say it, Woodward, and what's his name? If it hadn't been for these kind of people, never would have happened. And Congress, I think, was a little more ethical back then. Just, made up more ethical politicians. And Nixon himself said it when one of the worst legacies of Watergate was that a lot of young people who might otherwise have gone into government saw it as a corrupt snake pit that they didn't want to get involved with. And we were reaching a level of civility in politics that is gone forever. We're back into like this 19th century level of political campaigning. I mean, McCain's campaign could not have been worse. When he couldn't sway people by his arguments, he just started throwing mud. It's all very sad. So, on that note, now I'd like to make another note. I am not a friend of this parking lot, and the reason why is that it's flush against my house. Not to say that Hollywood needs a lot more public parking, but I'm not the one who tore up all that parking that was at the corner of Hollywood and Las Palmas. I mean, hundreds of parking slots destroyed, more than could even be filled on a Friday or Saturday night. So don't blame me. I mean, these are like a dozen measly spots. And they're making this poor kid over here work ghastly hours. It's just unbelievable. And they're not paying any kind of Social Security or anything. I hate Shine Construction. They're not paying his Social Security. They're not paying. They're not doing shit for this kid. And they should be paying for his education. There, I said it. Over and out. Well, I hate to end on such a grumpy note, because I think this upcoming year holds a lot of progress and promise, and let's just keep our fingers crossed. Over and out.